right, we are live on another VanHack Success Case interview. My name is Ilya, and I'm super excited today to be joined by Dmitry, who's a software engineer from the Ukraine who got hired and moved to Canada a couple of years ago. Dmitry, great to have you here.
Yeah, nice to see you, Ilya.
Yeah, good to see you again. Please tell me, just introduce yourself. Where are you from? What kind of tech stack do you work with? Your professional experience.
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, my name is Dmitry, and I have moved to Canada around 2.5 years ago with a great help of VanHack specifically. I used to live in Ukraine in Kiev for a couple of years before this move, and I used to work in a company called Playtika. It was great experience, and in general, almost all my experience, like a professional experience, is related to software engineering and development. So in general, when we decided, me and my wife and the kid, when we decided to do another move from Ukraine to another country to seek some better opportunities for a kid specifically, for us in terms of traveling and in terms of more, let's say, safer environment and potential like future opportunities. So we started to consider multiple countries, and one of them was Canada. I would say maybe we didn't have much of a choice. We didn't want to move to Europe, but we didn't want to move to US as well. So Canada was like a logical choice for us, and I was started to search for companies who actually can work with foreign workers, right, with foreign software engineers specifically. And I just found VanHack. I don't remember how. It was probably just a random Google search, but then I realized that VanHack gives a good like a list of possible employers who can who don't mind to work with other people. Because when I tried to search by myself, I found that a lot of companies don't even respond back when they realize that I don't have like a valid work visa or work permit in Canada. But when it comes to VanHack, I knew that all companies are fine with working with foreign workers. So this is how my experience started with VanHack.
That's awesome. How did your you found VanHack, and how was the experience? Like, how long until you you started applying for jobs, but how long until you had interviews, and then how did you actually get your job?
Great question. Let me remember. It's been 2.5 years ago, and to be honest, I know that VanHack system has improved and changed a lot ever since then. Because when 2.5 years ago, it was, I believe, pretty, at least from user standpoint, it was pretty simple, like list of companies, and then you have pipeline. So I have registered on a website, and I have solved a technical challenge. And also passed an English interview, and I started to look through all the companies that hired potential people abroad. And I have applied to a couple of them. I didn't know how long this process could last, so I applied maybe to 5 or 6 different companies who looked really interesting for me in a different types, in different parts of Canada. And actually, quite surprisingly, I have received a response from somebody from VanHack quite fast. So the most important for me was that I didn't have any experience of interviews with foreign companies, and specifically with like Western companies. And what I have realized that with the help of VanHack recruiter, that she told me it's a completely different process from, let's say, Ukrainian process, and specifically culture-wise. When you need to have a good ability to describe yourself, your personal work, and so on. So in this specific topic, I have received a huge help from VanHack representative who was working with me, and she suggested that we can even have what do you call it, like mock interview, when she just pretend to be employer, and I answered questions, and she actually helped me a lot with my answers and pointed where I could have done better. And the journey itself, I believe I had 1 or 2 interviews while I was in Ukraine with these companies that I have applied to, but unfortunately we didn't move forward with them by various reasons. And then what is something that really changed like the let's say, my process, that I have received invitation inside VanHack to attend a Leap event that
Yeah.
was happening in a Kitchener area,
Mhm.
and it actually had a huge impact on my future path,
Mhm.
specifically because the event was not in a big city like Toronto. It was
Mhm.
in a Kitchener, which is around 100 kilometers west from Toronto, and it's like
Mhm.
quite small one, around 200,000 to 300,000 people.
Yeah.
So I have received invitation, and I realized that this is a big, let's say, opportunity and a big honor for me, because only, I believe, 15 people were
Wow.
invited to attend this event. So I did my best to prepare, and I traveled to Canada, traveled to this event, and I had a couple of days of extensive communication with the companies that OneHug brought to an event. It was a great
Mhm.
opportunity because once again, during the preparation, when I
Mhm.
was in Canada already, we had a lady who helped us a lot with some preparation, how you should do your pitch
Mhm.
itself, what should you consider as the next steps, and so on.
Yeah.
So as a result, I have received 3 different invitations to do an interviews
Mhm.
during this Leap event and during my stay in Canada. I have done 2 of them, 2 interviews with 2 companies, and one we have scheduled it over the next week when I was returning to Ukraine already. And
Good.
interestingly enough, that this third one was done offline over internet when I have returned to Canada after this, sorry, returned to Ukraine after
Yeah.
this Leap event. And eventually it was a company called Terminal.
Mhm.
I went through the whole process in their interview pipeline, and I had all the support during all the steps of these interviews with the OneHack representative as well. So it really helped me a lot, specifically to put myself in a good position during interviews, besides the
Nice.
technical part, of course.
Nice.
Yeah, and luckily I've got an offer from Terminal, and then I believe OneHack also did a job to help me in some documents preparation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Eventually, Terminal took care of it, but I know if it wasn't a Terminal, then OneHack would help me with the documents themselves, like a work visa process, application stuff, and so on.
Awesome. So how did it feel when you got the job offer?
Well, after so many rejections, I have to say it was super exciting and
Mhm.
not unexpected, but still unexpected. Because
Mhm.
in general, I have to say that maybe I have done around 35 interviews over a course of 5 months.
Mhm.
Because mostly because the process of interviews of Western and Canadian companies is much more longer and complicated in comparison to
Mhm.
Ukraine. That's
Mhm.
why they sum up to 35 interviews. And at
Mhm.
the end, I was able to get this offer, and they asked it for a reference check, which is also was something new to me. And I was worried, like, why do they need it? And is it possible to that my manager gives like a bad or not ideal reference, and I failed
Right.
the last step. But luckily around maybe 1 a.m. due to the time difference, around
Yeah.
1 a.m. Ukrainian time, I received a call from my now manager, and
Okay.
he told me that, yeah,
Were you
we are
sleeping? Like,
happy.
did the call wake you up? Did you?
No, of course not. I was waiting. He told me like maybe we will be in touch like tomorrow, and
Oh,
I
okay.
knew
So
that
you're just like,
tomorrow.
I'm staying by my phone. I'm not going to sleep tonight. Just looking at the phone.
Yeah, till the time I was already used to this late type of interviews,
Right.
because most of the time I had interviews between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Ukrainian time
Wow.
due to time difference. So
Wow.
I was pretty used to it.
Wow. That must have been an exciting moment. And yeah, it's funny how what you said, like 35 interviews, and I'm going to say this, like probably the reason you didn't get a job earlier is because North American interview processes are complicated for no reason.
Well, yeah, I have to admit it. That's true. And most of the time I kind of fail it almost the last parts of interviews.
Mm,
If we are talking about the interview pipeline itself, it usually starts with recruiter call, which is
yeah.
fine. Then you have one call with kind of cultural fit or explain about your experience. If you pass these two, then you have virtual on-site where you have 4 additional interviews.
Mhm.
And if you pass all of them, sometimes they want to have one more with a like CTO or CEO. And sometimes I have failed like this one, the very
Oh my
last one
gosh.
about CEO. They told me maybe we need somebody with more experience.
Uh,
So like you have passed 6 calls with this company, and they rejected you on the 7th call. So it
ouch.
takes 3 weeks to you to realize it. Okay, I need to move with another one. And I was pretty maybe a little bit like picky with companies as well. So I didn't want to just go to Canada
Mhm.
for any whatever it cost, but I wanted
Yeah.
to find a good product companies. And actually, VanHack system gave a good explanation what the company is, so you're not going blindly to just a software engineer title position.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that you were picky. I think that's really important that people are conscious of that. It's not just about moving; it's about that job, and you're going to work there for a long time. So it's important to really do your homework as a candidate as well, and not just take anything first thing that comes to your path. Um, cool. So how was the actual relocation and first few months getting set up in your new home?
Uh, when it comes to relocation, it definitely started from all the documents preparation. And yeah, as I mentioned, I have passed a lot of interviews over a course of 5 months.
Mm,
And then once I received an offer itself, everything was pretty fast and like a blizzard, like really like super fast.
mm,
Maybe in like 1.5 to 2 months, I have received all my documents related to visa, LMIAs, and potential work permit approval. So
mhm.
then we bought a ticket and traveled to Canada immediately.
Nice.
Um, Actually, what should I say? The Canada is really great country for immigrants, and when I say, I really mean it,
Mm,
because everything from your landing to the final stage where you can think, okay, I'm settled down,
mm,
everything is really smooth in Canada, and you have all information for your disposal, like what should you get as a first steps. I believe I have received this information along with my visa approval. So
mhm,
the government of Canada sent the email with the list of, let's say, first actions that you need to do, like you need
mm.
to go apply for insurance, you need to find a place to live, you need to get your driver licenses,
Yeah,
uh, and something else. Yeah, you need to receive your social insurance number,
that's right.
and so on. So all the steps are really smooth and clear as a new immigrant. So I
Mhm,
wouldn't worry here at all. And if any questions, a lot of people like in Service Canada are really friendly and they answer all questions patiently. They repeat everything.
mm,
Mm. So didn't have any troubles. Maybe one kind of not a disadvantage, not a discomfort, but mostly inconvenience, because
mm,
back then in Ukraine we didn't have much phone calls in 2019 when I moved to Canada. So usually people try to either come in personal or either come in person or maybe send text messages. This is the way, or emails. This is the way how you communicate with like services. But in
mm.
Canada, people really like to call over a phone. And once we moved here, my English was not really like
Right.
ideal, of course.
Mm,
So it was kind of, upper intermediate, whatnot. But when you hear a voice over a phone with some disruptions, it was sometimes really challenging to figure out what is happening, especially
mm,
when you file your taxes and you need to call for some advice to a CRA. So
mm,
I did it once, and they were so kind and patient when I was asking to repeat something or speak slowly. So
mm.
in this case, like we definitely like the experience of settling down was ideal. I couldn't wish for anything else, actually.
Nice, nice. And your wife's happy. Your child is happy. Everything's good with the family.
Yeah, luckily for us, we have received everything that we wanted from this kind of relocation part. Of
Mm,
course, we had a lot of worries and uncertainties about if it's a good decision, if the Canada is really that country that we want to live moving
mm,
forward and so on. But after 2.5 years, I definitely can assure that at least for us, it worked out well.
mm.
And the huge advantage of Canada itself, by the way, that when you move, for instance, when I received my work visa and work
Mm.
permit with the company, my wife
Yeah.
automatically receives open work permit as well. It
Hmm.
means that when she landed here, she was able to get a job, like official job in almost any places. And this is
Yeah.
what she has done actually. She has
Nice.
tried multiple different ways to being busy, get some additional income for us, and so on. So it's a big yes, because I know in other countries your spouse
Yeah.
doesn't have this kind of advantage.
Yeah. In the U.S. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to kid, of course, for a child itself, herself, she was maybe like half of our motivation to move to Canada, because
Mm,
I was looking for some YouTube bloggers who was filming about Canada, relocation to Canada, and all this stuff,
mm,
and we were so excited to see like all the friendliness to
hmm.
children in Canada, like including playgrounds and some attitude and the cleaning uh, situation around
Hmm.
all the malls and streets and so on. So that's why we also decided to choose Canada as a country for us, and
Hmm.
we didn't have any disappointing ever since then, especially for kids.
That's great to hear. How old was your daughter when she moved? Just curious.
It's a funny because we have received a visa approval on exactly on the day of her first birthday.
Oh, wow.
So she was 1 year, exactly 1 year when we received email that we have finally received our visas and all documents are fine and ready. So, and in 4 days, we traveled to Canada after it. So she was 1 year.
Wow. Wow. That's exciting. So she's gonna basically grow up Canadian. That's really cool. So just last question or two more questions. One quick one is how was work? You know, you've been working for 2.5 years now at this company. You're, I'm sure, doing really well.
Mhm.
Just how's that going? And then last question is what advice you have for other people, other van hackers. But let's start with how's your job now?
Yes, I actually I haven't changed a job for 2.5 years, so I'm
Mm,
completely satisfied with this position and the company itself. Maybe it was just my luck, or maybe most of companies are that good that you don't want to move, except of some, situations when you really want or you are offered to go to like Google or Amazon or whatnot. But
right.
in general, I'm super satisfied with the company itself. I'm happy being staying here, and I hope to
Mm,
stay there here even longer.
cool.
The most exciting part I have to say about working in a Canadian company and maybe Western companies, that they really care about your like mental health and
Mm,
about your feelings during the work. So it was something really like pleasure to me and unexpected to me to receive maybe weekly calls or a couple of times per month calls from my manager, where he just asked how do I feel and if I want to do something or if I need to have something and so on. And in
mhm,
general, like how am I doing? And this is I would say the biggest, for me at least, the biggest difference from Ukrainian companies.
mm,
It's not, I'm not saying that Ukrainian companies don't care about you at all, but mostly about how explicit it in a Canadian companies. Like
right.
all the time, you feel this support from your mental standpoint and from your work-life balance, and companies try really to enforce it.
Nice.
Um,
That's cool to hear. And so what advice do you have for other van hackers who are watching this video, trying to relocate to Canada or Europe, other place in the world? What would you say to them?
uh, Probably the only one that I can say from my own experience, that you need to keep trying and keep up the pace.
Mm,
So if you want to do it, just try again, again, and again. Even if you fail once, it's not a real fail. It's
mm,
just moving you a little bit forward to your final decision and final situation that you desire. So
Right.
you shouldn't give up in any point. And the most important, at least if we are talking about, let's say, Ukrainian engineers who want to relocate, try not to be shy during interviews. Because I know from cultural standpoint, we tend to say like our companies, our team is doing blah, blah, blah. But here you really need to stand for yourself and say what exactly you are doing and what have you achieved, as much as precise as possible about yourself specifically. And then it will help you in your interview processes drastically.
Awesome. Great advice. Yeah, I like that last point a lot. That's very true. Well, Dmitry, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a busy day with life, family. You could be doing many other things. So thank you for taking this time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so happy to see you doing well.
You're welcome.
Awesome.